Babbage's original prototype computer was called the difference engine because it was the difference between 0 and 1 that made it run, that made it work, that made it do calculations. It was powered by difference. And I think that because I partly move in circles with where there's a lot of interest both in literature and in computer programming, we all developed almost a style of variations of and puns on the difference engine. Two friends of mine created a kind of computer program for generating list poetry called the apostrophe engine, which produced some amazing results. And it harvested material from the internet. So it had that same sort of slightly aleatoric, slightly, you know, let everybody in on this, let's see what everybody has to say about this topic quality that some of what we've done has a bit of that as well, the multiple voice. Although not physically present voices, multiple voices being brought together by that computer program. And when we were first talking about this, we were talking about it as a way of people, in a sense, participating in the composition of a musical piece by who they turn on and off. They are participating in composition. So the composition engine seemed like a good enough name, and it is driven by the composing work, the curatorial work as well of the audience turning it on and off. That's what drives it, the same way the difference between 0 and 1 drove Babbage's original computer.
Beneath them sit the aged men, wise guardians of the poor. Then cherish pity, lest you drive an angel from your door. Night. The sun descending in the west, the evening star does shine. The birds are silent in their nest, and I must seek for mine.
Art and faith are so closely linked, they're almost inseparable. I have been an artist, or worked in the arts, all my life. And I grew up in a family where my parents worked in the arts. I did not grow up in a Christian family or a family that had any particular faith tradition, but art was always there. Theater, music, literature. And in many ways it was art which made me a Christian. John Donne, T.S. Eliot, and listening to my father rehearse, because my father sang a lot of religious music, and I've often said I got my early theological education by listening to my father rehearse. So they've always been very closely related for me, and my own artistic work as a writer and as an event curator has always been both an attempt to do things that are artistically interesting, artistically credible, but that also express my faith, my theology. Not necessarily directly, but that they are shaped by what I believe to be true about God and God's relationship to the world, and how that is expressed through, among other things, works of human imagination and creativity.
My exposure to art was a very practical, liturgical one growing up. It was always the case that my father was a choir director, had rehearsals at home, or was preparing music for church, and you couldn't help but jump in into the fray if you were in our family. But I also realized at a fairly young age that there was a vast, I shouldn't say gulf, that's probably not the best word. There was a vast space which could be filled with far more sort of formal training and application and advancement, just from a technical point of view, than what I'd ever experienced in church before. And the potential for beauty in a practical liturgical setting seemed always somewhat unrealized and unfulfilled, and I think I will spend the rest of my life somehow trying to fill that giant, enormous space in some very, very small way. But it's always been kind of almost painful seeing what little bits of beauty we can create here, somehow trying to mimic the beauty of creation, of I guess the love that went into it, and the reaching towards God through creativity. Attempting to make something beautiful is something you'll, I guess, never achieve in this lifetime, but continually strive towards, and hopefully in more and more profound ways.
Part of the interesting thing about it is watching how people interact with it, what choices they make about which performers to turn on, which performers to turn off. The first year we did it, we had the singers and the readers segregated by half hour. So there would be a half hour that was just singers, a half hour that was just readers. I think mixing works much better.
Lights an anatomical map of angels' gold bloodways. The boy meets the numinous people.
You walk into the space in the interior of the church nave, and there are performers scattered around, and there's a lamp like this at each performer. The lights are off to begin with. Performers don't perform if their lights are off, and someone comes around and flicks a switch, turns their lights on, and as soon as the lights are on, they begin performing. And there were, as Maggie said, there were readers, there were singers, instrumentalists, and the goal was to allow people to sort of carve out this soundscape from all the potential noise that could be created by all these performers, winnowing down to a single performer sometimes, or having all 10 or 12, I can't even remember how many people we had, performing simultaneously, or switching off subsets of them to get particular sound, or sound from a particular direction, or
individual member of the audience can control everything.
Unless they're the only person here, in which
Yeah.
case they have
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really went on a power trip.
No.
Just shut everybody off and sat there in silence. It's
Yeah, but you know, when there are multiple people here, which most of the time there are, any one person in the audience is also, whether they like it or not, collaborating with the other people in the audience. It creates a situation in which no one can be in full control. The performers are in control of what texts they have and how they perform them. The audience members are in control of who is on or off at a given time, but none of them is in absolute control. They are only in collaborative control with the other people there. So power is very decentered in the way that this is set up.
It might have just been a Toronto thing too, but there were a lot of really, really timid attendees.
Yeah.
They had to be guided over by someone who wasn't performing, but who knew how to do how everything worked, guided over to a switch to turn a performer on and off, or even have it demonstrated for them.
Yeah.
You know.
People aren't used to participating in a piece of art. They have been trained to be passive consumers of art.
Or just passive consumers, period.
Of anything.
Yeah. I actually remember the first year that we did this, there was a man who came with his daughter, and it was just as we'd gotten started, we were all sort of trying to figure out what we were doing and feel for the effect. And he turned my light off and he came up and he said, you know, my daughter doesn't go to church with me and my wife, but she just stood in the middle here for 10 minutes. I don't know if you saw, and she said, Daddy, this sounds like God. I thought, you know, that's an interesting thing, especially from a child, to say, sort of the thing you can't quite grasp, the unexpected beauty, all sorts of almost tired phrases about how we interact with the divine. I mean, I really don't mean to put too much emphasis on that, what it is that we did, which was fun too. Yeah. But it is interesting how people react to unexpected beauty in that way.
Because people can get music as soundscape, they can't get words as soundscape.
They turned soundscape into story time with a single individual.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but I remember one of my volunteers, just everybody else kept being shut down and he was just standing there reading, I think it was Beckett, all by himself. Because the audience member who was there just persisted in shutting him down, shutting down everyone else. We were never anyone. Everything we were preceded us, foolish in the heady days when we thought we might somehow.
Have none to bring. Behold me then, me for him, life for life. I offer on me let thy name.
His fingers are deepening violins of an afternoon sleep. The light is good, it holds me. It knows me more than I know it. His pectorals helium. Two tremendous eyes fill the host until it's
Promise, mistake by the way, the maid, and tell the lady of that delay. Only let me love none, no, not the sport, from country grass to comfortures of court, or cities quell quelque chose, let report, my mind transport.
I think the reaction to it is, on the most part, going to always be kind of somber and staid and very mellow, because that's the sort of atmosphere that that's generated.
Yeah, I mean,
as an aesthetic experience, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had good responses from people. Certainly, people have said that they found it moving, powerful. But you don't know. In a way, you never know what someone takes away from a piece of art. What does it mean for them exactly? Is it going to affect them in some way going forward in their lives? You don't know. You put it out there. And what happens, or doesn't.
I think it benefited too from sort of the general banality of the rest of doing Blanche. You know, you kind of go traipsing from venue to venue, and you're scratching your head wondering how that was art, and then you stumble upon something beautiful. That's there's an added little sucker punch to the aesthetic experience in that respect.